Elena Morozova had not stepped onto rink ice in 7 years. In that time, she had grown comfortable in stillness, the muted clatter of her little antique shop, the slow twirl of dust motes in winter light, the measured ring of the bell above her door. Life had become a collection of manageable turns, nothing like the tight, breath-stealing spins that had once flung her across the world and into the glare of Olympic cameras. She told herself she was content until the morning Sergei Volkov appeared at the shop with snow clinging to his coat and an ache in his eyes that matched her own. Sergei had been her first coach, the man who'd molded a stubborn street skater from Novosibirsk into a silver medalist. At 63, he still carried himself like a drill sergeant, but the years had etched softer lines around his mouth. He spoke without preamble. "I need you." A simple sentence, but it shifted Elena's careful life off its axle. He explained, there was a new talent at the Moscow Ice Center, 17-year-old Mila Park, born in Irkutsk to a Korean mother and a Russian father, skating since she could walk, explosive jumps, lyrical arms. "She could be what you were meant to be," Sergei said, and Elena felt the old wound throb, the one born of a single mistimed landing in Torino that ripped a tendon and every dream attached to it. Surgery, rehab, a disastrous comeback attempt the next season, then silence. The dream packed away like blades beginning to rust. "I don't coach," Elena reminded him, turning the key in an antique music box as if winding the conversation shut. Sergei laid a hand over hers. "You stopped skating, not breathing. The ice is still in you." She remembered how it felt. Cold slicing into lungs, the world narrowing to the line of a tracery curve. And she remembered what came after. Reporters asking if she'd skate again. Sponsors fading. The man she'd loved choosing a younger, uninjured partner. No, she told herself. She was finished collecting bruises. Yet Sergei, stubborn as a boot nail, refused to leave until she promised to watch the girls skate, just once. That night, Elna drove across the river to the ice center. Fluorescent light shone through plexiglass, casting the arena in an otherworldly glow. She sat high in the stands, coat wrapped tight. On the ice, a slim figure traced footwork patterns, so intricate they seemed etched by calligraphy. When the girl launched into a triple Lutz triple toe, snowflakes of shaved ice fluttered around her like applause. Elena's lungs tightened. There, in the girl's fierce lift of chin, she saw her younger self, hungry, unafraid, not yet acquainted with disappointment. Mila stumbled on a layback spin, flinging arms too wide. She slapped the ice in frustration. Sergei signaled her over and pointed to Elena. The girl glanced up, curiosity flaring in dark eyes. In that heartbeat, Elena understood Sergei's gambit. The girl didn't just need technique. She needed a mirror of who she could become if passion was tempered with wisdom. And maybe Elena needed something too, proof that her past hadn't been wasted. She approached the barrier. "Your entry to the spin is rushed," she called. "Count the beats. 1, 2, 3, before you drop your shoulder." Mila scanned Elena's face, recognition dawning. "You're Elena Morozova." "Was," Elena corrected. The word tasted like rust. Mila smirked. "Once a champion, always a champion." Then with the charming insolence of youth, she added, "Want to show me?" Elena hadn't worn skates since donating her last pair to a charity auction. But Sergei threw a set of rental boots at her feet. The leather was stiff, the blades dull. Yet as she stepped onto the ice, the surface answered, familiar as breath. She traced a slow circle, muscles awakening, old ghosts rattling chains of memory. Mila watched, wide-eyed, as Elena gathered speed and unfurled into a camel spin, So quiet, the air itself seemed to hush. 8 revolutions later, she drifted to a stop, heart pounding like floodwater against a dam. She felt alive and terrified by how quickly the feeling could addict again. "Tomorrow at 6," Sergei said, sealing the unspoken agreement. Elena quit arguing with herself. The next dawn, she rose before the city, laced borrowed skates, and began coaching. At first, the days ran on coffee, adrenaline, and the clash of wills. Mila possessed all the traits Elena once had: talent, impatience, unshakable belief in her own indestructibility. Their sessions were a duel. Mila wanted quadruple jumps. Elena insisted on basics: edge quality, posture, breath. In the mirror of the rink glass, Elena saw her teenage arrogance staring back, and she softened. Between drills, they talked. Mila's father, an engineer, worked shifts in Yakutsk. Her mother managed a laundromat. Money was tight. Mila confided fears of peaking before she ever reached the world stage. Elena shared stories not from highlight reels, but from lonely hotel rooms, from painkiller bottles rattling like maracas in midnight bags. Slowly, trust filled the silence between skate blades. 3 weeks into training, Sergei informed them nationals were 8 weeks away. If Mila placed top 3, she'd make the team for European juniors. Elena studied the girls' program and saw brilliance tangled with chaos. The choreography, designed by a local dance teacher, lacked narrative. "What story are you telling out there?" she asked. Mila shrugged. "Jumps win medals." Elena shook her head. "Without a heartbeat, jumps are just math." They spent evenings in a broom closet studio above the rink, music funneling through tinny speakers. Elena made Mila close her eyes, breathe, move without thinking. She showed her how to bend a wrist like a blossoming petal, how to let breath travel through a spine. One night, sweaty and laughing, Mila asked, "What story would you tell if it were you?" Elena almost said, "The story of a girl who flew too close to glory and fell." Instead, she answered, "A phoenix," then surprised herself by adding, "rising." Mila's smile was brighter than arena lights. "Then let's rise." Coaching meant more than ice. It meant phone calls to stretch every kopeck for costume fabric and rink fees. Elena took extra weekend shifts at the shop, cataloging teaspoons while choreographing footwork in her head. One crisp afternoon, a tall man entered with a battered violin case under his arm. He paused beside an oak chest where Elena stood polishing hinges. His cheekbones looked carved from Siberian stone, but his eyes held quiet warmth. "You're Elena Morozova," he said, not as a fan, but as someone confirming a memory. "I am. I'm Daniel Park, Mila's uncle. Her parents asked me to drop off payment." He handed her a linen envelope. She noticed calluses on his fingers. Musician's hands. "You play?" she asked, nodding at the case. "Second chair with the Philharmonic. I also repair instruments. Mila says you make her believe impossible things are possible." Elena flushed. "She makes herself believe." He hovered, scanning shelves of curios. "Would you, sometime, help me choose a music box? I'd like to surprise her before nationals." They arranged to meet after practice. Over the next weeks, Daniel became a quiet thread woven through Elena's days. Standing at the rink boards, applause folded in his palms, appearing with thermoses of ginseng tea when Elena's voice cracked from shouting corrections. He spoke little, listened much. One evening, while Mila sweated through run-throughs, Elena and Daniel sat in chilly stands. She confessed her terror that Mila's dreams might shatter the way her own had. Daniel adjusted his glasses. "Dreams don't shatter, they evolve. Mila isn't you, but she also can't be who she will be without you." Elena studied his profile, feeling an unfamiliar warmth unfurl. She'd built walls high as cathedral ceilings. Daniel's gentleness seeped through cracks she'd forgotten existed. Nationals approached. Pressure thickened like wet snow. Mila's triple flip developed a hitch. Her landings grew tight. After a disastrous practice, she flung skates against the boards. "I can't breathe," she gasped. Elena recognized the suffocating vortex of expectation. She led Mila into the empty stands and told her about Torino. The pop in her ankle mid-landing, the way cheers turned to gasps, how her world narrowed to a single excruciating pulse. "I thought if I didn't win, everything ended," she said. Turns out, ending and beginning are sometimes the same doorway. Mila stared at her coach, tears trembling. "What if I fail? Then we try again. Falling isn't the story. Getting up is." That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She drove to a frozen park pond, blades slung over shoulder. Moonlight painted the ice silver. She laced up, pushed off, and skated until breath burned and muscles screamed. Until she tasted the metallic tang of memory and let it bleed out onto the night. In the hush of snow, she realized she no longer feared the past. She could still love the ice without needing it to love her back. She returned to the rink at dawn, cheeks raw with cold, heart strangely light. Nationals were held in Kazan's gleaming arena, banners fluttering like bright wings. Elena traveled with Mila and Sergei on the team bus. Daniel followed by train, arriving just before the short program, suit coat speckled with snowfall. When Mila saw him, she squealed, tension evaporating for a moment. He handed her the chosen music box, walnut inlay, a skating couple revolving to Rachmaninoff. Mila opened the lid. Notes spilled out, delicate as first frost. She hugged her uncle, then Elena. "Thank you," she murmured. The short program was solid. Triple Lutz triple toe, fiery step sequence, 6th place, but within striking distance. Elena told Mila to trust the work. That night, they reviewed jumps in an empty banquet hall, chairs shoved aside, blades clacking on cracked linoleum. Free skate day dawned stormy, wind rattling arena doors. Backstage, skaters swarmed like migratory birds, sequins, nerves, mascara. Mila warmed up, jumps snapping to their apex with sniper precision. She was third to last in the final group. Plenty of time to overthink. 15 minutes before takeoff, word arrived that the event was running early. One skater had withdrawn due to injury. Everything shifted forward. Panic flared in Mila's dark eyes. Elena grabbed her shoulders. "Breathe. The phoenix remembers its wings." Mila nodded, lip quivering. From the kiss and cry, Elena watched the previous skater stumble through falls. The ice looked cursed. Mila stepped out, dressed the color of sunrise, music box theme reorchestrated into orchestral sweep. First element, double axel, perfect. Next, triple Lutz, triple toe. Landed with whip-snap precision. Crowd roared. Then came the triple flip. At the apex, something was off. Mila landed pitched forward, free foot swinging wide. She fought, scrubbing speed, salvage, turning into skid, gasps. Elena's heart slammed. Memories of her own fall surged. She forced herself to stay poised, projecting calm across boards. Mila rose, shoulders back, chased music in a series of choreographic turns. She reached the layback spin, counted beats, 1, 2, 3, dropped her shoulder, the correction Elena drilled into muscle memory. Spin blossomed, centering, drawing applause. After the final choreographic sequence, Mila accelerated into her last jump, a triple loop. She landed clean, arms sweeping to sky. Music crashed to its climax as she stretched into a final arabesque glide, head tipped, tears scattering like bright salt. Scoreboard flashed. Personal best. Third place overall, enough for the junior team. Mila collapsed into Elena's arms, sobbing. Sergei's craggy face broke into the grin of a man 20 years younger. Reporters swarmed. Mila answered questions with poise, crediting her coach. One asked Elena if she missed competing. She looked toward Daniel, who stood beyond camera glare, smiling. "No," she answered honestly. "I prefer this view." Snow slicked the parking lot outside the arena. The team bus idled, loading. Mila bundled inside with teammates, ecstatic. Elena lingered next to Daniel, exhaust plumes curling around them. "You were magnificent," he said. Not to Mila's performance, but to the way Elena had steadied a shaking heart. She laughed, breath fogging. "I only shouted counts and prayed. Sometimes that's all guidance is, counts and prayers." They stood close, the hush after adrenaline amplifying every heartbeat. Elena brushed stray snowflakes from his hair. "Thank you for the music box," she said. He hesitated. "Would you, after the season, maybe teach me to skate? I spend my life behind music stands. I'd like to feel melody under my feet." The offer was so gentle it cracked her wide open. Once she would have fled, afraid of wanting. Now she heard the crackle of new ice forming over deep water. Dangerous, beautiful, worth stepping onto. "I'd love to," she said. Then, because courage begets courage, she added, "and perhaps you can teach me to trust live music again. I haven't listened to Rachmaninoff without flinching since Torino." He smiled, lifting her hand to his lips. Deal. Training for Europeans resumed with renewed fire. Mila, now a medalist, attracted media glare. Elena shielded her best she could, refusing sponsorships that demanded weight checks or social media stunts. She was determined Mila's trajectory would be shaped by art, not algorithms. One evening, while waiting for an Uber outside the rink, Elena's phone buzzed. A message from a sports network offering her a commentator spot for the next Olympics. 15 years ago, she would have lunged. Now she scrolled, indifferent. A different life awaited, one that fit like a glove, not a vice. Snow drifted, heavy and silent. Daniel arrived, violin case slung over shoulder. "The orchestra booked a spring tour," he said, eyes apologetic. "Vienna, Prague, Paris, 2 months." Elena's heart dipped. She'd learned to measure romance in cautious steps, but she surprised herself by saying, "I'll visit." She pictured cobblestone streets, night concerts, skating rinks set up in city squares. She pictured possibility. He exhaled relief. "We'll waltz on every frozen fountain." Elena grinned. "Only if you don't mind bruises." "I haven't worn dance shoes in ages." "Bruises are proof of living," he said, and she realized he echoed words she'd once spoken to Mila. European Junior Championships took place in Tallinn, city of spires and Baltic winds. Elena traveled as coach, official credential dangling. She carried no talismans except a slip of sheet music Daniel had tucked in her coat. The violin opening of the program's theme, marked with his bow strokes. Mila skated like sunrise, burning through fog, clean short program, mesmerizing free skate. When scores posted, she stood on the top step, flag draped over shoulders. Anthem played, tears freezing on her cheeks. In the stands, Elena clapped until palms stung. She felt none of the bitter envy she had feared. Instead, she felt full, like a tuning fork struck true. Backstage reporters clustered again. One asked Mila, "What's next? Olympics?" The girl looked at Elena before answering. "One day, yes. But first I want to keep loving skating. My coach says victory without joy is hollow." Elena's throat tightened. Those were words she'd spoken in passing, not realizing their weight. After the medal ceremony, Mila pressed gold into Elena's palm. "Hold it," she insisted. "It's ours." Elena examined the medal, so like her own silver now packed in a closet somewhere, yet wholly different. This one didn't sting. It shone. She returned it. It's yours. Mine is walking beside you. Spring arrived soft as a lullaby. The antique shop blossomed with travelers seeking trinkets. Elena reduced her hours, leaving more evenings free for the rink and for Daniel, who taught her how rosin dust smells backstage, how string vibrato feels against a jawbone. In turn, she guided him across glimmering ice under twilight, laughter ricocheting off empty boards. One April night, she invited him to the pond where she'd exorcised her ghosts. Ice was gone, replaced by mirror water, reflecting constellations. They sat on the bank, hands intertwined. Frogs croaked, distant traffic hummed. Daniel opened the violin case, drawing bow across strings. Rachmaninoff floated over ripples, this time laced with peace instead of regret. Elena closed her eyes, letting notes settle like snow on quiet fields. She thought of the Phoenix program, of Mila twirling beneath arena lights, of Sergei winking from rinkside, of her own lungs opening to possibility. She realized the past was not a chain, but a root system, feeding new growth. When the last note faded, Daniel lowered the violin. "What are you thinking?" he asked. That sometimes losing the dream you think you want makes room for the dream you didn't know existed. He kissed her in answer. Fireflies sparked above the reeds, tiny lanterns lighting a path forward. They sat until dew dampened their shoes, until the horizon bruised with dawn. Then they rose, heading toward whatever came next. Summer training camps, concert halls, maybe distant Olympic arenas, where Elena would stand in the kiss and cry again. Not as the skater gasping for validation, but as the coach, the mentor, the woman who had found her way back to the ice. And, more importantly, to her own unguarded heart. And somewhere in the city, a music box turned. Eternal skaters twirling to an old Russian theme. A reminder that every revolution, on ice or in life, ends where it began, offering yet another chance to rise.